بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. لقاءنا اليوم بإذن الله هو اللقاء الثالث من الدورة التدريبية للآيلتس، تقدمها لنا دكتور رنا استبهان. رنا استبهان Academic Lecturer in Applied Linguistic Department at Princess Noura bint Abdulrahman University, Saudi Arabia. Currently a PhD candidate in English Language and Applied Linguistic Department at the University of Reading in the UK. She conducted several IELTS preparation workshops in person and online. She also taught IELTS as a model to undergraduate students. تفضلي دكتور رنا. مدة اللقاء بإذن الله راح يكون ساعتين. إذا في أي سؤال أو استفسار ارسلوا لنا على الشات.
Thank you, Dr. Ahlam. I'd like to start by thanking, of course, ITAR Group, represented by Dr. Ahlam and Dr. Ahmed, for offering their platform for the third session during this month to provide this workshop. So we really appreciate this offer. Today, inshallah, it will be our third session. Our first session, we discussed the IELTS listening. We've talked about tips, strategies, and techniques to deal with the IELTS listening part. We've also reviewed some of the common mistakes and some of the preparation plans to prepare for the exam. And the following week, we similarly did the same thing for the IELTS reading. We reviewed some of the strategies and tricks to deal with the exam during the exam, and of course before taking the exam. And then also we reviewed some of the common mistakes done by test takers. And today, continually, we are progressing into the third part of the IELTS exam, and that is the writing part. So I would like to thank you all first, before we continue, for joining me for the third session and showing such, let's say, enthusiasm for continuing the course. Okay. So today, inshallah, we will be talking about tips, tricks, and strategies for the IELTS writing, followed by some of the common mistakes, and we might do some of the practice if we still have time. So today, I'm expecting you all to end up with some learning outcome, similar like the first and the second session. You will be learning some of the exam skills to achieve the results you're looking for. You will be learning how to prepare yourself for the exam. We'll review some of the common mistakes, how to increase your score, and finally end up with some of the tricks and tips to pass the writing exam. Okay, but before we start, I would like you all to go to www.menti.com and enter this code. I just want you to answer the question and choose as many options as it applies to you, okay? Let me very quickly post the link. For those who didn't join us the last two sessions, we usually use menti.com to just refresh and start the session. You don't have to do it, but I would really appreciate it, because we could have an idea how is it going to be the rest of that session today. If you are having a problem logging in, let me know, please, and I will post the link here in the chat. I will now stop sharing for a minute, and we'll show you the results, and we can view the result together. Can you see the screen? I'm not sure if I'm sharing it or not. I'm not sure which screen I'm sharing. Can you see the question? Why do you find writing a challenging skill? Good, good, good. Let me copy and send it through the chat. Just click on the chat, on the link on the chat, and answer the question. Why do you find writing a challenging skill? You may choose as more than one reason or as many reasons as you wish. Okay. I remember in our very first lesson or session, I asked you which IELTS part you find the most challenging, and two main skills you chose. One of them was writing. So I wanted to know now, why do you find it challenging? Why do you find it a bit hard than the other skills? Because based on your answers, we can focus more on the solutions. Okay. Remember, you can choose as many as you wish. We're here just to see where is the hardest area, and we can focus on the next slides. Any more? So far, we have two like highest rate reasons. I cannot retrieve the right words to express an idea, and my writings have lots of grammatical and spelling mistakes. Okay, followed by struggling to organize the writing, and then struggling to develop ideas fluently. And I have a hard time getting started. And that's weird that we don't have anyone who is overwhelmed by the task. Let's hope it's a good idea or attitude. Okay, we have one now. Do we have many? I think that's enough for now. Now we have an idea of the areas you find most challenging, so we can focus on during the session. So let me stop this one for a minute and go back to our slides. Just a second. Can you see the slides? Okay. Okay, good. Let's continue to the rest of the session. Now, the IELTS writing. The IELTS writing is the third part in the IELTS exam. It will last for 1 hour, 60 minutes. It will be divided into two parts. Each part will consist of one task only. The first task, one question, asking you to write 150 words. And the second task will ask you to write 250 words. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit in details about each task. For task one, it is advised you spend 20 minutes because it's less number of words than the second task. And for the task one, it's usually based on visual information or pictures or charts or a map, any visual information. And you're asked to summarize or describe that kind of information. For task two, it is advised to spend at least 40 minutes on writing this task, simply because, of course, you're supposed to write 250 words this time. And this task basically is asking you to produce a written work or argument, either presenting a point of view or discussing multiple points of view, okay? Or defending your own opinion about a theme or a topic. For the writing criteria, there are four main writing criteria. This is how the test assessors will assess your writing. To start with, they will check, have you answered the task? Did you answer the question as as closely as possible. You're not missing part of the question. Then you'll get to 25% of the whole grade. And then they will check your lexical resource. Do you have enough range of vocabulary to show your ability of the language? And then the coherence and cohesion. And here they are looking to see, are your ideas well connected? Do they flow? Do they flow from one idea to the next one smoothly and clearly? And finally, grammatical range and accuracy. Are your sentences and words grammatical and well written? Is the spelling correct? Do you use punctuation in the correct manner? Okay. Now let's dig deep into the first task. Remember these 4 criterions we just discussed? Here is the band for each one, or the expectations for each of these criteria. So if you are, let's say, aiming to have a score 7, for the task achievement, you're expected to cover the requirements of the task. You're expected to present clear overview of main trends, differences, or stages, to present a clear purpose with the tone consistent and appropriate, and to clearly present and highlight key features and bullet points. Okay? For the coherence and cohesion, for band 7, you're expected to logically organize information and ideas, use a range of cohesive devices appropriately, although there may be some or under or overuse. For the lexical resources, you're expected to use a sufficient range of vocabulary, to use less common lexical items, and may produce occasional errors in word choice. And finally, for the grammatical range and accuracy, for band 7, you're expected to use a variety of complex structures, produce frequent error-free sentences, and has a good control of grammar and punctuation. So, if you are planning on a certain or specific IELTS score, have a look here, okay, and examine each criteria and what is expected from you to get that band, okay? Now, for writing task 1, as I mentioned before, there will be visual information. It could be a chart, it could be a kind of figure, it could be a table. But whenever you have a chart, there are 2 types of charts. And this information is quite critical, and not all test takers are aware of this. And I will explain in the coming slides why do you need to know it and how would you make use of that. But first, let me explain to you what's the 2 kinds of charts. We have a dynamic chart and we have a static chart. A dynamic means that data shows or the information shows over time. So they describe elements throughout time, okay? So supposedly, they're showing you, for example, how many IELTS test takers or how many tests were run from 2000 till 2022, okay? So we have 2000, then we have 2005, 2010, 2015, and then 2020. Yeah, and then 2020. And they're showing you how many tests were run in each year. This is the dynamic chart. Whenever there is a time range, this is called a dynamic chart. Other types of charts or graphs are called static charts. What do I mean by static charts? Here there is no time limit. The data is shown at a specific time only, at just one point in time. For example, I'm showing you how many female and male tests during 2020. That's it, 2020, okay? And I'm just showing you how many female and how many male test takers during 2020. Do you understand the difference between the 2 charts? So again, the dynamic over time, it shows you a change of elements throughout time, okay, multiple times. Where the time, by the way, it could be years, it could be months, it could be weeks, could be hours, different sort of time. Static, on the other hand, is just showing you an element at one point of the time, okay? There is no change in the time. The time is static. Is it clear now? Should I move on? Okay. So why do you need to know that whether the chart or whatever you're looking at is dynamic or static? It's very important to understand that, because in a dynamic chart, you will be explaining what is happening during the time. Does it go up? Does it go down? What are the changes throughout the time? Whereas in a static chart, whatever the chart, what kind of chart it is, you are not concerned with going up and down or the changes. This time you are more interested in seeing the highest or the lowest or the similar or differences and stuff like that. Do you see why do you need to know the dynamic from the static? Because it dictates you what kind of answer you're expected to do. When it's dynamic, remember, you're going to describe the movement. Is it going up? Is it going down? What kind of changes is happening during the time? Whereas if it's static, you are more interested in superlatives, highest, lowest, most, fewest, and so on. Now let's review the questions in task 1. So the first kind of question in task 1 is called a bar chart, okay? This is a bar chart, right? So in a bar chart, let's read the example together, and I'll explain step by step. The bar chart below shows the sector contributions to India's gross domestic product from 1960 to 2000, all right? This is a summary of the graph of this bar chart. Now, this is the question. The question is, summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So you're supposed to summarize, you're supposed to select and report the main features and make comparisons. This is like 3 jobs or 3 tasks you have to make sure you are talking about them. Summarize, report main features, and compare. And then they're telling you again how many words they're expected, and here it is 150 words. Now let's imagine we are in the exam and you have been given a bar chart. What should you do when you read the question, the introduction or the preview, and then you read the question? What's next? The next step you should do is to examine in details everything in the bar chart in front of you. This is all happening before you start writing. This is what is recommended. So let's start with the title. Here we are, the title is saying contribution percentage of India's GDP, okay? Next, we should examine the y-axis and the x-axis. So the y-axis here is 10, 20, 30. What is this? What's these numbers represent? Can you guess? This y-axis, what do these numbers represent? Any thoughts? What do they represent? Percentages, very good. These are the percentages, okay? Not necessarily you will see a percentage sign, but it is it's already stated here, so they don't need to write the symbol with each and every number. And then we are going to look at the x-axis. And here we have, what do we have here? What kind of numbers are these? What do they represent? Hmm? 1960, 1970, 1980, 1990, 2000. What are these numbers? Years, very good. These are years. Okay, and then we have in each year, we have 3 different colors, okay? And each color is represented by a certain item. So here the berry red is representing agriculture. The red is representing industry. And the pink one is representing services, okay? And we have the same elements in each year. Now, back to our previous slide. Can you guess, is this a dynamic or a static chart? Can you guess? Is it dynamic or is it static? A dynamic chart means there is a change in time. A static is one point of time. That's the only difference between the two. Very good, Fatma and Yasmin. It is dynamic, right? So with the dynamic, you're more concerned with the changes over time, okay? So here, and one important thing you have to keep in mind while studying for the IELTS Task 1, in writing, you have to make sure you have enough vocabulary for each task. For the bar chart, for example, these are just examples. These are not like the only language used. This is what kind of language you expect to use in a bar chart, gradually increasing. Give me an example of any of these gradually increasing. You can unmute yourself if it's easier to speak rather than talk, rather than typing. Which one? 2000? Okay. Okay, Fatma. Fatma, you are talking, pay attention. You are talking about 2000 and you are talking about the increase of each different element here. Okay, so it's not gradually increasing. Okay, it's if I'm describing something gradually increasing, I'm talking about one element throughout the time. So your job is to look at each one and tell me which one is gradually increasing throughout time. There is one.
Industry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, industry.
Industry. Let's see, industry. Yeah. Industry is the red one. Okay, you can say industry is gradually increasing from
gradually increasing, yeah.
Until 1980, and then?
Yes.
And then?
Remain the same.
Very good. Remain steady. Yes.
Yeah.
So which one is a question again? Which one gradually increasing? Which one of these?
Is it services?
Services, very good, that's it. Services, have a look at services. They're gradually increasing throughout the years, okay? And then we have reached a peak. Which one reached a peak?
Is it industry?
Industry in which year? Is it in every year?
No, but from 1980 to 2000.
Industry, does it reach a peak from 1980 till 2000? You're talking about the industry, the one in the middle. Is it reaching a peak?
No, I mean services.
Services in 2000, it reached a peak, and agriculture in 1960 reached the peak as well. Okay, this is for describing increase. How about decrease? You can use one of these words: a slight fall, fill, a low of, or finish at. These kind of words describe the decrease of the elements within task 1. Okay, now let's move on to another question. This time we have a pie chart. We called it pie chart. Sometimes you may have one pie chart. Most of the time you will have 2 pie charts and you're supposed to compare them. So let's read the question together. The chart below shows the reason why people travel to work by bicycle or by car. This is the main theme, the topic. The question is, summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. And again, write at least 150 words. The first thing we do after reading the questions, we examine the pies, okay? Let's start with the title. So the first title, reasons for cycling to work. The second title is reasons for driving to work, okay? So we know this is cycling and this is driving. Then we have within the pie different colors, and each color represent a reason. So for example, orange color is health and fitness, yellow, less pollution, green, no parking problems, brown, no cost, this one is dark red, brown is faster than driving. And then we move on, and in each element we can see the percentage, okay? And then we move on to the second pie and see that the color blue represents comfort, orange, distance to work, gray, faster than cycling, yellow, need to carry things to work, and dark blue is safer than cycling. Now we have an idea. We know we're going to talk about reasons to cycle and reasons to driving, and each one is represented by different reasons with different percentages. Now, in describing a pie chart, as you can see, it's percentages, so we're expected to use a language that matches this. So we can use the proportion of, or the percentage of, or a large number of people, or over a quarter of, okay, of people, a small minority, a significant number, or less than, let's see, for example, here, fifth. So if I'm using a large number of people choose what? If you are using this example, a large number of people, what did they choose?
Percentage.
Sorry?
The highest percentage. Like, for example, the first chart, health and fitness.
Yes, very good. So a large number of people cycled to work for health and fitness reasons. Very good. Okay, moving on to the next question. The next question is a line graph. Oh, let me go back for a minute. Is this a static or dynamic chart?
Static, is it?
It is static. Very good. There is no mention of time. And when there is no mention of time, that means it is done in one specific time. So there is no need yet to mention it in the question. Now, line graph. Line graph looks something like that. Let's read the question and examine how to answer it. The graph below shows radio and television audiences throughout the day in 1992. Okay. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Again, you're supposed to write at least 150 words. So we read the questions. Next step is to examine the chart here. Okay. So we start with the title, Radio and Television Audiences in UK, October till December 1992. Okay. Very good, Fatma. It is dynamic. How do you know it's dynamic here? Well, they say it's just 1992, so how is that dynamic? Is it dynamic or static before we go on? What do you think? Okay, it's done first one time. Okay, so we have some people saying it's dynamic, other people saying it's just one time, which means static, right, Tahani? So those who chose dynamic, why did you say dynamic? It's only happening in 1992. You can do it. Why? Up and down in the chart. Okay, I'll give you a clue. Look at the x-axis. What's there? Here. The x-axis. What's this? time. We have time of the day. So whenever there is time involved in any chart, that's a dynamic one. Even if it's happening in 1 year, but if you see here, it's from October till December 1992, and we are not here also presenting months. No, we're actually talking about time of the day from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. Okay? So now let's go on and explore more this line graph. The line graph, why is it called line graph? Obviously, because there is lines from the beginning of the chart till the end, showing changes throughout the time. The time could be years, months, days of the week, hours, minutes, it depends. Now, what is in the y-axis here? This is obvious. What is it? What do these numbers represent?
The percentage of the UK population.
Very good. It's percentages, but they're giving us here extra information that is not mentioned in the question. So if you read carefully, you will know that this is about UK population over 4 years old. This is very important information. Why? Because you can include this in your writing, okay? That is not already mentioned here. You can include it easily in your writing and add more words and content to your writing. And the x-axis, we explained it, we have the time of the day from noon till midnight. Okay. Midnight, so it's from 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. Sorry, I thought it was p.m. Okay, and then we have two types of lines. We have the M hyphen, which represents the television, and we have the dash, which represents the radio. Okay. Within line graph, and also because it's a dynamic chart, we use kind of different vocabulary as well. So we can say fluctuate, which means going up and down, or we may say remain steady, or we can say remain unchanged, or reach a peak of, or hit a low of. Again, it differs on, it depends on the content of the chart itself. Okay. Moving on. The following question is a diagram question. Let's read it together. So here we have the diagrams below show a structure that is used to generate electricity from wave power. Okay, the question here is, this is the theme. The question is, summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Write at least 150 words. How do we start? Again, we do not start writing. We examine the diagram by first looking at the title, Generating Electricity from the Sea. Okay, and then we have picture A and we have picture B. What's the difference between the two pictures? Look at everything almost similar except for
the waves.
The wave, very good. In picture A, we can say the waves is moving forward, whereas in picture B, it's moving backwards. Okay. In a diagram, you're expected or predicted to write to express kind of a process. Okay, so the vocabulary or the language you're using is going to be different from the other charts. So it's either passes through, or flows out of, or goes into, or begins with, or processed by. Okay, so it differs depending on the content of the pictures or the diagram you're having. And then we have a table. One of the common questions in task 1 in the IELTS writing is having a table. So let's do this together. We have the tables below give the distribution of world population in 1950 and 2000. With an estimate of the situation in 2050. The question is, summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Write at least 150 words. So we know here that we have two tables. The first one is world population from 1950 till 2050. and then the distribution of world population by region. So here, from 1950 till 2050, okay, the number. Can you mute yourselves, please? Thank you. So we have here the world population, sorry. The second thing after examining the titles, okay, we look at the headings of the columns to understand more about the table. So here we have the world population, then we have 1950, 2000, and 2050. And here's the number in billions, 2.5, 6, and 9. This is just an estimate, okay? And then we have the second table, distribution of world population by region. So here, if you examine the first column, you can see continents, okay? And here, the estimate or the population in 1950, in 2000, and in 2050. What about this table? Is it dynamic or is it static? Why? Why is it dynamic? Why is it static? What do you think? Is it dynamic? Is it static, and why? Any thoughts? Do we have time here? Okay, they're talking about 3 times, or they're comparing between 3 time intervals, 1950, 2000, 2050. Very good. Okay, so because we have different times, this time we have years, that means it's dynamic. So whenever you're talking, for example, about Asia, then you have to look at Asia throughout the years, okay? You will say that in 1950, it's 56%. In 2000, it increased to 60, and it is expected in 2050 to draw a bit to till 59%, okay? Once again, the language in the table is different from the others, slightly different, not that much different, but here's an example for what you're expected to use to describe a table. You can say in the second column, of course, it's recommended not to say the second column, you should name it, okay? But I'm writing here just to show you. For example, here you can say in 2000, okay? There is a distinct trend of, and then describe it. Or you may say there is a significant difference between, instead of saying column A and column B, we can say there is a significant difference between which 2 columns. Choose 2 columns. You can say there is a significant difference between, and name 2 columns here, please. Or you may say there is no difference, or no difference, okay. You can choose either one. You can say there is a significant difference between, and name 2 columns, or you can say there is no difference between, and name 2 columns. Choose one. Have a look at the tables and let me know. If it's easier, unmute and speak instead of typing.
I will unmute them if anyone wants to participate.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. You can say, you can choose either or. You can say there is a significant difference between, and choose 2 you think they are having a significant difference. Or you can say there is no difference between, and choose another 2 columns. Anyone? Okay, Ahmed, there is a significant difference in column A and column C in Africa. Okay, very good. Africa, agreed. In Africa, you can say there is a significant difference between, and instead of saying column, remember, you're supposed to say between 1950 and 2000 in Africa, okay? There's a significant difference. Or instead of saying just difference, you can say there is a significant increase, okay? How about there is no difference? There is no difference between which and which? Latin American. Which two columns you would choose? There is no difference between 2000 and 2050. Very good. In Latin America or in Oceania throughout the years. Very good. Yeah. Okay. The next question, we have map. We might have a map in task 1. So here, the map below shows the village of Stockford in 1930 and 2010. The question is, summarize them by selecting and recording the main features and make comparisons where relevant, and write at least 150 words. Whenever you have a map, make sure you examine it first before starting to write. So let's examine it. Here we have Stockford, Stockford 1930, and here Stockford 2010. Okay, let's see. We still have the bridge. Okay, the river is still the same. Let's move on. Here we have, what do we have here? Can you see? What is this? In 1930 we have animals in a farmland. Okay, we used to have a farm here, but it's no longer there in 2010. What else? Have a look here. What else? Here we have a garden. Do we still have a garden here? In 1930 we have a garden. Do we have it still in 2010? No, it is replaced by, it was replaced by a retirement home. Yes, make sure you copy the same names. And what else? Okay, have a look here. What is this? In 1930 we have a post office. How about in 2010? Same. Yes, we still have the same post office from 1930. Is this map dynamic or static? Yeah, there are no shops. Yeah, the shops disappeared. In 1930, we used to have shops, but they are no longer there. Is it dynamic or is it static? Very good. It is dynamic. Again, we have this time we have 2 times. It doesn't have to be more than 1 time. Having 2 times is enough to consider it dynamic. Okay. So the words you use with a map is kind of different from all the other questions. You will need to be able to describe all the different directions. Like for example, you should be able to describe the width, the length, height of a building or of a house. You should be able to use directions, north, south, east, west, upstairs, downstairs. If you are describing like a way, you should say across the road, in the middle, in the center, and so on. So different kind of language from all the other questions. Okay. Now, from all the questions that we just reviewed, these, by the way, are the main questions you should have in task 1 in the IELTS writing. to be able to answer these questions, you need to develop two important skills. Number one, being able to interpret the information or the visual information and be able to read and understand statistics and diagrams. Okay, you should practice as much as possible to examine charts, pies, tables, just be exposed to numbers as much as possible to develop this skill. And the second skill is to be able to summarize and describe these visual informations. Once you are able to, or once you master these two skills, your writing in task one will be, you will master task one in the writing IELTS. Okay, so make sure you'll know, you understand the visual information and statistics, and you know how to summarize and describe the information. Okay. Now, let's imagine you are preparing, right now you are preparing to take the IELTS exam and you want to study for the IELTS task one. What should you do? Well, this is the most important steps or recommended plan to follow. First of all, study the different kinds of sample answers for task one. Okay, you can practice the question first and then compare your answers with the model answers. Learn appropriate vocabulary for each question. I have just showed you the different kinds of questions, and I have shown you that you're using different language from one question to the other. So you need to learn these vocabulary and feel comfortable using them. You will need to make sure that you write on a daily basis, either for a specific time or to finish a task. So for example, you should, set your timer for 20 minutes and make sure you write for 20 minutes every day. Or you can choose a task, for example, in task one, you can use a question, any of the questions we just examined, and make sure you practice that, write the whole answer on a daily basis, or mix between the two, whatever works for you. And then you have to familiarize yourself with all of these different visual information we've just examined. You need to know or understand how can you find the differences in a map, or how can you summarize the information in a table, how to understand and interpret numbers within a pie chart or within a bar chart, okay? And this is very important to get feedback on your writing, not just write for yourself. Make sure you have someone you can show your writing to and get feedback to measure your own development, to see how are you progressing in your writing, okay? Now, let's imagine you have studied for the test and now you're taking the test for task one. What should you do? First step, you should examine the information of the two axes. Remember, you have to look at to the y-axis and to the x-axis, okay? And understand what is happening, what is there in front of you. You have to understand what's the measurement. Is it percentages or is it total number, or what is there? Is there a time range included or not? Next step, now look closely at the most obvious trends. What's the most noticeable thing you can see within that visual information? Are there like obvious differences, obvious similarities, highest, lowest, and stuff like that? And then you should start writing. And in task one, you are expected to write 3 paragraphs. Paragraph 1 is about the introduction. And in the introduction, all you have to do is just paraphrase the theme or the topic, the main topic, and rewrite it again using your own words, and you may add some more information. And this would be your first paragraph. It could be 2 to 3 sentences, okay? Moving on to the second paragraph. The second paragraph, you are supposed to write an overview. And in an overview paragraph, you have to focus only what's noticeable, what's there, what's standing out, what's the highest, what's the lowest, what's the most, what's similar, what's different from each other. This is what you should focus on the second paragraph. Again, 2 to 3 sentences. And finally, the detailed paragraph. Here you are going to present more information from that visual chart or figure. This, you don't have to actually like list a number. In 2002, we have 50% of people doing so. No, you just, again, try to summarize it, combine or differentiate between similar things, whatever makes it easier for the reader to understand what is happening. And to make it easier, imagine you are writing for someone who doesn't have an access to this visual information. Okay, imagine that whoever is reading this cannot see the picture in front of them. So you can make it clear and fluent and easily moving from one point to the other. Okay. Now let's do some of the, consider some of the tips and strategies for the task 1 in the IELTS writing. I can't stress that enough, but you have to read the instructions carefully. You have to understand what are you supposed to do, okay? And then remember to stick to the word limit. Don't try to write over 150 words. You need every single minute in the writing test, okay? So if you wrote 150 words, okay, and you're sure you present all the main ideas, stop there. Okay, if you wrote less than 150 minutes, you will be deducted. You will be penalized for writing less than you are required. If you wrote more, it depends what kind of information you're adding. They're only expecting 150 words. There will be also marks deducted. But if you, sometimes you're allowed to write like, I'm giving this from my own experience and I'm not relying on any factual information, but 10 words more, 10 words less, hopefully they won't make the big difference, okay? Then you have to make sure you are using one kind of English only, either British or American, and stick to it throughout the whole writing. This advice should be used in task 1 and task 2 as well. Avoid copying the question. Remember in the introduction, you're supposed to just tell the reader what is it about, and basically it's just paraphrasing the question. Don't write it as it is. That's plagiarism. You won't be given marks, you'll actually be deducted if you write it in the same way or very similar way. So learn how to master paraphrase skill. And you can paraphrase if you have a quite range of synonyms, you are aware of different synonyms for the same words. You can change the word order, or you can change the word format for the words to have or result in different sentences from the questions, okay? You make sure that your answers are displayed in the form of a paragraph. You don't write in bullet points. This is really not advisable. Make sure you write in paragraphs, okay? Then, yeah, you don't need to write about every single point mentioned in the table or in the chart. Make sure you write about the main trends, the main features you can see in a visual information. Don't write about every single thing, okay? They're asking you, remember, the question was to describe and summarize. And summarizing means you are talking about the main trends within an information, or within, sorry, a visual information. Oh yeah, this is very important. Pay attention to the time of the chart, as it will determine the tense of the sentences. What does this mean? It means that, I hope I'm saying your name right, Saad, and thank you for whatever you're using here to clarify my point. Pay attention to the time of the chart. Sometimes the chart is talking about elements happened in the past. In this case, you will be using the past tense throughout the whole writing. Other times, you will be writing about a chart that is happening in the past and in the present. And in this scenario, you're expected to use the present perfect. Okay. Other times you will have something, and we have, I believe we just checked one of the questions about the future, 2050. This is the future. This is something estimated. This is something predicted. And in this scenario, you're expected to write in the future tense. So when you are reading the question, read the tense, not the question. When you're reading that visual information, that chart, check the tense or the numbers. Is it past, is it present, or is it future? Okay. And finally, make sure you don't spend more than 20 minutes on the task, okay? Because the task one is, I believe, is 33% of the whole writing test. So don't try not to spend more than 20 minutes, because you have another task coming up where you're supposed to write at least 250 words. Okay. Let's do some practice. Okay. I don't expect you to write the whole thing. I just want you to practice or imagine yourself going through the exam right now. What are you supposed to be doing? If you can, write one sentence for the introduction, one sentence for the overview, and one sentence for the detailed paragraph, if you can, and share it with us. I'll give you 5 minutes. 5 minutes? Yes, 5 minutes, okay? Have a look, examine this question, and if you can, share with us either what steps did you do to understand it, or a sentence for the introduction, a sentence for the overview paragraph, a sentence for the detailed paragraph. Okay, 5 minutes from now. Okay, so we have one sentence so far. Okay, we have two. Let's start with the first sentence. So the IT industry is rising every 2 years. Let's check the IT industry and which paragraph this sentence belongs to before we check it. Which paragraph does this sentence, the first sentence, belong to? What do you think? Okay, it's a dynamic. Yes, it's a dynamic chart, as you can see here. Excuse me, it's showing the changes throughout the time. Okay, so again, my question, the IT industry is rising every 2 years. Which paragraph should I write this sentence in? The last paragraph, the third. We have Amira saying third paragraph. Any other opinion? It could fit into the third paragraph, and it could be on the second paragraph, because that's something kind of obvious, something standing out, if it's rising every 2 years. Now let's check this information. Oh yeah, here's the tricky part. In the IELTS task 1, they're actually gonna check whether your answers are correct or not correct. So they will check if you are delivering correct information or incorrect information. So if I say that the IT industry is rising every 2 years, I will see here, okay, it's rising. Is it rising here? In 1996, is it rising, the IT? No, so be extra careful. Be extra careful. Don't be tempted to write a sentence just because it seems goes with the sentences you have already prepared. Don't. You will lose marks actually for reporting incorrect information. Okay? Going back to your sentences. Sarah is saying the IT industry noticeably height from 1992 until 2000. Let's see, IT again, and from 82 till 2000. You're doing the same mistake, Sarah. You're missing 1996. It actually decreases here, so be careful. Okay, you may actually exclude this year. Okay, you may say it in your sentence. For example, like Saad say, the IT industry is rising every other year except for 1996. In this case, the sentence will be correct. Okay, now can we start with the GDP components in the US have definitely changed from Fatma, is this sentence, are you saying that this sentence belongs to the introduction or just any paragraph? In the US, why are you saying in the US? Is it in the US? Oh my God, this is a huge mistake, Fatma. Is it in the US? Is it? Where's Saad? Where is the annotation? I never used the annotation before. I hope they don't disappoint me now. Where is the arrows? Draw maybe? Oh yeah, there we go. There you go. Yeah, oh, thank you. I thought it was me. Never mind. Well, thank you, Saad. So here it's the UK, it's not the US. Another huge mistake, so be extra careful. Read it. Remember my first advice, read the question carefully. Don't assume anything, just write what you have in front of you. Okay, what else? The IT industry reached a peak in 2002 where is it? Yes, the IT reached a peak in 2000 with a percentage of 16. GDP, okay? And what else? The service industry, okay, increased year by year. Let's see. Year by year. Oh, that's a steady. Yeah, yes, I agree. The service industry actually increased. You may say, you don't have to say at a greater rate. You may say increased slightly from every 2 years, for example, or from 1992 till 2000. Very good. Okay, the introduction. Let's see your introduction. The introduction you're choosing is that the GDP components in the US, or let's say in the UK, in this scenario, have definitely changed from 1922 to 2000 to 2000. That's Fatma, is not an introduction. That's reporting a change. In the introduction, you're expected to explain what is happening there. Imagine I have no access to this picture. How would you describe it to me? Okay, so the introduction would be something similar to this one, but of course after paraphrasing. So let's start paraphrasing the first one as an introduction together. Let's see. Can I say this chart shows? Can I say the chart shows? I'm talking about the introduction. Now I'm just introducing the readers to my paragraph. Why no? Why no? When you're paraphrasing the information. This is kind of commonly found, the chart shows. It's not going to be taken as a plagiarism because this is a very common word. What's plagiarism is once you copy the whole sentence, that's plagiarism. So you can still use that one, that bit, you can still use it, or you can replace it with something else. You can say in the chart, or in this chart, we can see, or for example, don't say we can see. In this chart, it shows, or in this chart, the GDP in the is presented or is discussed or is described in the context of the UK. Okay, and instead of saying from, let's say, this is my way, from 1992 to 2000, how many years between 1992 and 2000? How many years between 1992 and 2000? 8 years. So instead of just copying the same numbers, you can say for 8 years starting from 1992. Okay, that's one way. Or you can use still this one, but add the information you already discovered in the image. So instead of saying GDP here, you can say the chart shows not component, you're gonna say gross domestic product from IT and service industry in the UK, okay, from 1992 till 2000, or you can say for 8 years starting 1992. You see how you use the information in your own introduction to add more clarification? That's why I'm asking you to always examine the picture first, then start writing, because you will get extra information from this picture that is not mentioned here in the question prompt. Okay? What's not clear, Faye? I'm not following. Illustrate what? Which bit you don't understand? So again, in the introduction, you are supposed to paraphrase the question. Here in this example, we have only one sentence as an oh, okay, yeah, very good. Yeah. Illustrates instead of shows. Very good, yeah. You can use, you will have to paraphrase this sentence to be able to use it and get grades or marks for using it. How can you paraphrase it? You can only rely on what's here and just, for example, like Faye said, illustrate instead of shows, okay? And instead of just mentioning the numbers, just the duration of the years, or, which is more valuable, use the information mentioned already in the visual information inside or within the introduction sentence, okay? Here is the model answer. I'm not going to read it, but here they say the bar chart. Okay, was it? Yeah, it was a bar chart. Sorry about that. So instead of saying this, just the chart, they use the bar charts and illustrate. Yeah, the one we just chose, and then they're mentioning here, yes, they're mentioning the information from the table in their introduction, okay? It was measured in percentages. Well, that's okay to tell us or tell the readers how is it measured, based on what, okay? And then you see here for the task 1, we have the introduction paragraph, we have the overview, the main or the noticeable trends within the chart, and the detailed paragraph, okay? What about the common mistakes? Based on what we have been discussing so far, I think you can reach the common mistakes test takers do that will deduct or penalize them or deduct their marks. So first of all, presenting irrelevant information. Like what irrelevant? For example, I'm describing what's in front of me, like exactly. For example, like in this case, I would say in the x-axis, we have the percentages of attendees, for example, and in the y-axis, we have the number of people coming. We don't need that. This is not helping us. This is not summarizing. This is not describing. Okay. Second one is copying questions word for word or plagiarizing. Okay. Just copying the question words as it is without changing them. Writing less than 150 words. That will also deduct, or this is one of the common mistakes done by test takers. Changing the keywords in the question to inaccurate synonyms, and this is very important. Sometimes we tend to replace some of the keywords in the question with other synonyms, but these are not synonyms, not accurate synonyms. And let me give you an example. In the question, in the question, they're saying adults tend to sleep 8 hours on a daily basis. Again, adults sleep 10 hours daily. That's the question. Now imagine I'm going to write my introduction. I will say this sentence. Older people sleep for 8 hours every day. Right or wrong? Again, the example, the question is, adults sleep for 8 hours daily. My sentence is, older people sleep for 8 hours every day. Am I right or wrong? Right? If you think my sentence is correct, write 1. If my sentence is wrong, write 2. Type 2 in the chat. If it's correct, 1. If it's wrong, 2. I will repeat. The question, adults sleep for 8 hours daily. My sentence, older people sleep for 8 hours every day. 1, correct. 2, incorrect. And when I say incorrect, I mean any sort of incorrect answer. It could be plagiarizing. It could be mistakes, grammatical mistakes, any kind of a mistake. If those who answered as wrong, why do you think it's wrong? Unmute yourself if it's easier to speak. Very good, Fatma. Yes. Adults not mean all people. When I say adults, is older people a synonym of adult? Do they convey the same meaning? Adults and older people. Do they convey the same meaning? No. Adults, when I'm talking about adults, I'm talking about people from 18 years old till 100 years old. But when I'm talking about old people, I'm probably talking about people over 50 only. Am I clear? Yes. Is it clear? So when you are trying to replace the words, especially the keywords, make sure you're replacing them with the correct synonym. Make sure you're 100% sure that the synonym you're using is the correct replacement, okay? Some people use bullet points like this one in their paragraph. That's wrong. Every writing task should be written in paragraph form. No bullet points like this one. Or presenting the data in a list. For example, in 1992, like this, it was 200% and full stop in 1990. Okay, it's a paragraph form, but it's a list. You're not giving me information. You're not describing, you're not summarizing what is exactly happening. Why is this happening? Not why, but what's actually happening, okay? Okay, these are some resources for vocabulary. Of course, because I said you need to increase your range of vocabulary. This is some resource where you can use to increase your vocabulary. And this is the 100 most useful phrase for IELTS writing test. You have to study this very carefully. And I provide you with some online resources for IELTS task examples, where you can do the question first and then compare your answers with the model answers. So you can learn faster and more effective than just relying on your own writing. Okay? Ready for task 2? Should we start task 2? Okay. Now remember in task 2, we said that you will be asked about an opinion, either to present your own opinion or to discuss different opinions, okay? These are the main topics of the IELTS task 2. It could be development, could be globalization, it could be environment, health, education, criminal justice, transportation, youth crime. Why do you need to know the main topics in task 2? Why am I telling you this? What do you think? Why am I telling you the main topics in task 2? How would that help you? Very good, to develop ideas in advance, yeah. First of all, to read about these topics. That's number one, read about these topics. I know for sure we are not all well-informed in, for example, globalization, okay? We are not all on the same level in criminal justice. So read more about these topics so you will know how to form your own opinion, your own point of view once you are asked to talk about these topics. And very good, Yasmin, develop a range of vocabulary for each theme. Make sure you have enough vocabulary within your own dictionary to use once you have been examined within one of these topics. So that's it, develop a vocabulary list for each topic and practice, of course, first reading, then writing about these topics, okay? This is if you remember, I have explained before, the 4 criterion for assessing writing, the same as task 1. You will be assessed on task response, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, and grammatical range and accuracy. So if you are aiming for a certain score, read each expectation for that throughout the criterion. So you know which level should you be in your writing to achieve that score, okay? Now let's examine types of question in task 2. The first type of question is, do you agree or do you disagree? Let me give it to you in an example to make it easier. In the last 20 years, there have been significant developments in the field of information technology, IT. For example, the World Wide Web and communication by email. However, these developments in IT are likely to have more negative effects than positive in the future. To what extent do you agree or disagree? If you look carefully at this kind of question, you will know there are two things to notice. First, the topic, okay? The topic is IT, okay? And positive and negative effects of IT, okay? That's the main topic. The prompt or the question or the second part of the question is, do you agree or do you disagree? So when you are writing, you are expected to choose one side of the argument. Let's say you agree that IT has negative, let's say, negative effects on the future. Choose that one and talk about it. Give reasons why you think that's you agree with that. It's very important you understand how to answer the questions in task 2, okay? Because many of the common mistakes in task 2 is that they misunderstand what they're supposed to do, okay? They just read the first couple of sentences and then jump into writing and missing what they are supposed to write. You will understand this a bit more when we discuss the other types. Moving on to the second question. The second question, when you are asked to discuss two opinions. For example, some believe that money for education should mainly be spent on better computers, while others believe it would be better spent on teachers. That's the main topic, the theme. Now that's the prompt, the question. Discuss both views and give your own opinion. So in this case, you are expected to develop both sides. You are supposed to talk about money for education and money for computers, both sides. And then you are supposed to give your own opinion. What do you think? Is it okay for money for education or is it better for computers? Do you understand? You see how these two questions are completely different? In this case, you were choosing only one side and develop it, whereas in this one, you're supposed to talk about both sides. Are you following? Do you need a break? Would you like 5 minutes break? I know it's a lot to process. Would you like a break before we started going through the questions? Yes or no? Just 5 minutes break. More answers, please, so I can decide. Voting, yes or no? Break or no break? No, good. Break or no break? Okay, so we have no need, okay. Okay, let's continue. So this is one type of question. This is the second. Let's see the third one. Advantages and disadvantages, okay? For example, it is important for people to take risks in both their professional lives and personal lives. Do the advantages of taking these risks outweigh the disadvantages? Once again, you have the topic, okay? The topic is about taking risks, and the prompt or the second part of the question is it will the disadvantages, outweigh or more than the disadvantages or not? In this case, it is advised to develop one advantage and one disadvantage. So one advantage you'll talk about it in one paragraph. You mention the advantage, you explain it, and then you give an example of it. And then you move on to the second paragraph, and you choose what you choose. One disadvantage, you explain it, you give an example for it, and then you conclude your paragraph with your opinion, let's say, if you need, or which one you think outweighs the other one. Okay? The fourth type of question is causes, reasons, problems, and solutions or effect. An example would be, as major cities around the world are growing, so are their problems. What are these problems for young people living in cities? What are possible solutions for these problems? So here you have the main topic, major cities in the world and young people. The question or the prompt is, what are the problems for young people and the possible solutions? Within such kind of questions, you're expected to, again, list one problem, explain it, give an example of it. The second paragraph, what's a solution to that problem, explain it, give an example of it, and that's it. Okay? Of course, you're allowed in these scenarios to write 2 or more, but the problem with writing more is that you need to explain or elaborate your answers. You need to support your choices. You need to support your reasons. If you choose to write more than one, you will be, how can I say it? You will be stuck when the time is over. You won't be able to provide explanations to support your opinion. So it's always in the safe side if you choose just one and take your time in explaining and giving examples rather than listing a couple of reasons. Okay? And remember, one big difference between task 1 and task 2 is that task 1, there is actually a correct and incorrect answer. You have to make sure that all the numbers are correct, all the information is present in that picture. But in task 2, the IELTS assessors don't care actually about your answer, whether you agree, whether you disagree, what kind of advantages, what kind of disadvantages. They're not going to assess you in your choices. They will assess you, however, on your writing. Okay? Did you follow the 4 criteria? Did you support your answer? Did you provide enough explanations, and so on? Okay? And then we have the structure. Yes, remember in task 1, we said we have 3 paragraphs. Paragraph 1, just the introduction. 2 will be the overview, and 3 will be detailed paragraph. In task 2, the structure will be a bit different. It will be because you're expected to write 250 words. So it's better to expand the paragraphs into 4. Okay, so the first one is the first paragraph is introduction. Second paragraph will be the body paragraph 1. The third will be paragraph 3, and the fourth paragraph will be the conclusion. Okay, so for introduction, you are supposed to, again, the same as task 1, you're supposed to paraphrase the question and give your opinion if you're asked to. Of course, it depends on the question. On body paragraph 1, remember, you're supposed to start with a topic sentence, which is the main idea. Then you have to explain that main idea. Then you have to give an example of that main idea. And then moving on to the third body paragraph. Similarly, you are supposed to write a topic sentence, main sentence. Then you are supposed to explain it, and then you're supposed to give an example of it. And the fourth paragraph is the conclusion. Here you just summarize the main points. It could be 3 to 4 sentences maximum. These 2 paragraphs, 2 and 3, it depends. Could be 5 to 8 sentences. It depends. I can't give you a number. It depends actually on the length of the sentence and the idea. Okay? Do you understand the structure of task 2? Yes or no? Okay. Let's see the next one. Okay. Now we have checked all sorts of questions in task 2. What kind of skills, what kind of skills you need to master to be able to answer these kind of questions? First of all, you will need to develop an argument. You need to be able to develop an argument with both sides and express your own opinion. Okay, that's a skill you need to master. And you need to balance different viewpoints and analyzing problems. In the case of you are supposed to write about problems and solutions. So you will need to be able to write an argument, okay? Defend your own point of view. And you need to be able to present and discuss different viewpoints, okay? Now, let's imagine you're going to take the text in the coming weeks and you need to study or prepare yourself for task 2. Well, obviously, similar as to task 1, you will need to make sure you write and you write daily. Again, you can set up your timer for 40 minutes this time because you are supposed to write for 40 minutes, or choose a theme, a sample question from IELTS task 2 and write about it, whatever is convenient to you. Number 1. Number 2, study the variety of sample answers available to you online. There are dozens of online resources where you can find actually model answers for task 2. Try to answer the question first and then compare your answer with these model answers, okay? This is a very fast and effective way to learn rather than writing by yourself and having no one to proofread you or give you feedback. Learn appropriate vocabulary about the themes I have presented at the beginning of task 2. It's important to develop a range of variety of vocabulary. Again, oh, sorry, that's the same, the visual information. And the most important thing is to find also feedback on your writing. Have someone read your own writing. It doesn't have to be all the time like teachers. You can ask anyone, a colleague, a friend. Any feedback will help you in your writing, okay? Learning phrases. This is also another effective way to develop your skills in task 2, is to learn phrases that fit or match each purpose. For example, in the introduction, you maybe want to to start with your own opinion. So you can say, my point of view, apologies for the grammatical, for the typo. You can say my point of view. You can say from my own perspective, okay? If you are presenting an opinion, you can say, I agree that, or I disagree that, and you mentioned the topic. When you are giving an example, you can say an excellent example is, or take one instead, and so on. When you are concluding, this is the last paragraph you're writing, you can say in conclusion, or I would like to conclude that, or to sum up. Learning these phrases make your life easier when you're writing, because you already know how to start your sentence. You just need to fill in the gaps, okay? How about during the test? Let's imagine now you're going into task 2 in the IELTS writing. What should you do? Number 1, analyze the question. And I mean analyze it and take your time analyzing it. Highlight, if you can, the main idea in the question. What are you supposed to talk to? And then highlight your prompt. What are you expected to do? Is it presenting discussing different opinions? Do you have to support any? Do you have to present problems and their solutions? Try to understand both sides of the question. Number 2, this is where you're supposed to, you haven't started writing, by the way. Till now, you haven't started writing. So analyze the question, number 1. Number 2, generate ideas. brainstorm, try to think of all the possible ideas you have about that topic, okay? And then write them down on a separate paper or on the same paper, and you can delete them later on when you finish, okay? Just outline what should you write in the first body paragraph, what should you write in the second body paragraph, and what opinion, let's say, you chose, or what problems you're going to discuss, and so on. Just write them in bullet points, what you should write in this essay. Now, after doing these first step 1 and step 2, start writing. And start writing by doing the introduction. How can you write the introduction? Once again, paraphrase the question, okay? And if you are asked to present your opinion in the first paragraph. If you are asked to discuss both points, how can I say it? Outline these 2 points in the introduction. Whatever your job is, outline it in the introduction. And then in the second step, you're supposed to write, as I said, 2, maximum 3 body paragraphs, each paragraph about one topic or one main idea. And finally, the conclusion, where you just summarize what you are talking about, summarize your idea, summarize which point you agree or disagree with in 3 to 4 sentences. Okay? Is it clear? Are you following? I know it's kind of boring doing the writing. I'm trying really my best to make it less boring, but I don't think I'm doing a good job here. Back to task, through strategies and tips. So again and again, read the questions and read them carefully. Try to understand what's the main idea and what are you supposed to do. Number 1. Number 2, to make sure you don't forget, okay, and get lost in your own ideas, highlight the key words in the question so you don't forget. Make sure that in each paragraph represents one idea and one idea only. Make sure you support that idea with explanation and examples. Always imagine whoever is going to read your paragraph has 0 idea about this topic, okay? Use a variety of sentence structures. Use complex sentences and use simple sentences, okay? Use a range of linking words, okay? Make sure that the reader can move from one idea to the second idea easily. Make their lives easier if you say, however, or additionally, or likewise. Using these words, make it easier to follow from one idea to the next idea. Make sure that your writing is formal and that you are using academic English. So avoid using abbreviations, avoid using slangs. This is not acceptable in the IELTS writing in general. Yes, we discussed this idea before. There are no correct and incorrect answers in task 2. They're just viewpoints. Both are acceptable. You just need to explain them and make them clear. Okay, and again, make sure you stick to British or American English. Don't mix between the 2, because this is also considered, even if it's correct, it's considered a mistake once you mix them. Common mistakes. What are the common mistakes in task 2? I think we reached a point where we can predict the common mistakes. So writing about the wrong topic or missing the task. As I explained to you, you are given 2 points and you are expected to discuss the 2 viewpoints, but you were overwhelmed by your own and you just shadowed the other opinion. That's wrong. Make sure you understand what you are supposed to do. Another common mistake is writing all the problems or the causes or the effects, all the advantages, all the disadvantages, and not explaining them well, okay? Not providing enough illustration about each one. So it ends up like a list rather than a paragraph. This is not acceptable, okay? Writing short essay, you're expected to write 250 words. Make sure you write 250 words. Spelling mistakes, grammatical mistakes, mixing American and British English, using slangs like Ghana or contractions like can't, okay? Another important mistake is using one sentence as a paragraph. That we call these run-on sentences, where you have a sentence that is 3 to 4 lines. This is not acceptable. You have to make sure that your sentences are well organized and their length is actually grammatically acceptable. Or using uneven paragraphs. Okay, so you may have the second paragraph as, let's say, 8 lines, and then the third paragraph is 2 lines. This is kind of weird. This is not acceptable in writing an essay. They have to be, how can I say it, evenly, especially the body paragraphs. The introduction could be a bit shorter, the conclusion could be a bit shorter, but the body paragraphs should be equal somehow, because they're talking about equivalent points, okay? Right, let's now practice. Yeah, we do have time. So don't be overwhelmed. I'm not expecting you to write an essay now. I just want you to imagine yourself in the exam right now. What would you do? Okay. And I want you to share with me at least one sentence from your introduction or the introductory paragraph. Can you do that? Just explain your steps. How would you answer this question? And number 2, write one sentence that belongs in the introductory paragraph. In other words, paraphrase this sentence. Are you there? Okay, I'll give you 3 minutes. 3 minutes, only 3 minutes. I just want you to practice it for a little bit, for 2 minutes or 3 minutes maximum. Okay. So tell me, what did you do when you first read this question? What was your plan to answer this question? If you can unmute, or you're able to unmute yourself, if it's easier, otherwise just type in the chat and I will read it aloud. What's the main theme in this question? Okay. Volunteer work might be a beneficial choice for the young people. Okay, very good, Yasmin. That could be your introductory or paraphrasing for the sentence. And in the same way, I believe that's your opinion, that volunteer work is a beneficial choice for the young people. Good start. How about the others? What did you do? Oh, can you tell me what's the main theme of this question?
Okay, now you can unmute yourself because I changed the settings.
Thank you, Dr. Ahlan. Any volunteer? Another answer, we have the unpaid community work is something helpful to spend free time. You're making your statement general than it is supposed to be. So the unpaid community work, okay, helpful to spend free time. But you kind of slipped the teenagers, and teenagers is one of the main topic, or one of the main themes within this question. It's not just unpaid community for everyone. I think here they're mentioning it for the teenagers. So make sure you don't miss any bit in your answer, okay? So instead of teenagers, you may use younger people, okay? Or if you are stuck, use teenagers. Don't worry. The idea is to cover the whole point without missing any part. Can I complete the sentence with for the teenagers? The unpaid community work is something helpful to spend free time for teenagers. Yes, you can. Yeah, that would be good. That would be very good. Okay. So how did you reach this introduction or paraphrasing?
I have one.
Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I strongly agree that teenagers should work for their free time, but if we pay them, we're gonna encourage them to work.
Okay. You're starting your essay with a very strong statement. So you're saying, I strongly disagree.
No, I said I strongly agree.
Agree, sorry. Okay. Strongly agree that teenagers should be?
Work for their free time.
Should work for during their free time.
But
okay.
If we pay them, we're gonna encourage them to work, because they said here, unpaid community.
Yes.
Yeah.
So okay. So I'm guessing one of the points you're going to discuss in your body paragraphs is that not unpaid, but it should be paid, right?
Exactly.
Yes. At this stage, it's in the introduction. Save this idea, especially the paid unpaid argument, in your body paragraph, and just leave it to the coming paragraphs, and just have your first sentence, which I strongly agree that teenagers should do or should work during their free time, and then how can I say, introduce the payment issue in the body paragraphs. But I like your idea that you started immediately with opinion. You're frankly telling us your opinion, which is good. Any other? Here we know some people supposed to work, to volunteer maybe, or work in their free time. That means other people don't believe that, okay? To what extent do you agree or do you disagree? So in this case, starting with your opinion is encouraged, because you talk about your opinion throughout the whole. We have one last answer. From my point of view, I agree with this idea. Okay, I love this, but what I don't love in this sentence is that this idea. Which idea, dear? Which idea, Fatma? Have you mentioned this idea before? When you say, from my point of view, I agree with this idea. When you say this or that in English, it is assumed that you have written the noun in the previous sentence. But have you done that? I don't think you have. And so instead of saying this idea, again, imagine whoever is going to read your essay have no idea what the question is about. And you're telling them what is it. So you should say, I agree that, and then you present the idea that teenagers should work in their free time because it has many benefits, for example, or for many reasons, okay? And then that's an idea, okay? That's a complete idea. So you should have a full stop after reasons, because that's an idea. A new sentence. If a teenager adds information on their charity work in their free time, it will improve their portfolio and make it easier to famous university in the future. Now you're talking about this idea is a reason why you agree with it. This idea shouldn't be in the introduction, should be in the body paragraph, and you should explain it and clarify it. It's a beautiful idea. You just need to add more information and make it in the first or the second body paragraph. Okay? Let's move on. Here is the model answer. You can read it at your free time. I'm not going to waste your time reading it. Now, let's with general IELTS writing both that works both for again comma slice, when to use, and so you this punctuation marks, so you know how to use them. But repetition, don't treat yourself just to add words to the content. They're professionals. They know that you are repeating yourself to add more words to meet that. So make sure don't repeat yourself. Just make sure you know how many words you have in writing. Okay, so you don't overwrite, because you need every minute to revise. Make sure you haven't done any grammatical or spelling mistake. Keep an eye on the time. Make sure you don't exceed the time. You don't want to end in the middle of body paragraph 1 and you haven't finished body 2 or the conclusion. It will be so short. You will lose so many marks just because you are in the middle. Even if you have the ideas, you haven't. Did not attend the last 2 lessons. In a minute, Sarah. Develop the most appropriate written language for each task. Just giving you an overview how to develop your language, and I will provide you with extra online resources where you can develop your language, your vocabulary, and vocabulary. Make sure you're attentive to your spellings and to your grammar, and make sure before handing in or submitting your answers to revise them. Read it, I'm not going to say aloud, but with your mouth, so you know if you're making a mistake, you can spot it. Okay? These are some resources for task 2 examples. What I recommend is you have a look at the questions, give it a try, and then compare your answers with the model answer. And here, this is something I did not try, to be honest, but you can try it yourself. It's from Cambridge, so I'm guessing it's a legit website. It helps to assess your writing. So have a go, click on this link and see how can they assess your writing, okay? Questions. We reached the end of our session today. We have been discussing, or we have reviewed task 1, task 2, types of questions, tips. We've discussed the tips, tricks, and strategies. We have reviewed the common mistakes conducted by test takers. We reviewed also how test assessors actually assess the writing material, and how to prepare yourselves before, and how to deal with the test during the test time. Any questions? So we have here, Sarah said, I did not attend last 2 lessons. For those who missed session 1 and session 2, I will type in my email address. I forgot my email address. Okay, and please email me back if you need. I believe Dr. Ahmed will email you with the links, because these sessions have been recorded. Yeah. And I did that with the previous attendees. I have actually sent the links to them on email. So by the end of this session, probably tomorrow, I will email whoever emails me back the slides for, if you want, please say that in your email. If you want slides for session 1 or session 2 or session 3 or all or just 3, just be specific. And I will also email you the links to the recorded sessions, okay?
Thank you. I already put the link in the chat. So if anyone wants, just click on the chat and the link that I put it in the chat. This is the channel. You will find the first lesson and the second, and today as well. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed. Sorry, let me type in my email. 20 student reading. Okay, here's my email. Oh, sorry, that went private. Sorry. Copy. Sorry. Let me email it back to everyone. Okay, here's my email address. Again, if you need the slides, email me back and I will email you the slides. And if you need slides for first or second sessions, specify that in your email. Thank you for listening. Thank you for responding. Thank you for making this session bearable. If it's just me speaking, you wouldn't learn anything. So thank you again. Can't thank you enough, actually, making it enjoyable. And if you have questions, if you have suggestions, if you have requests for the last session, type it in the chat or email me, whatever is convenient to you. I'm assuming.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rana, for the presentation and for the wonderful lesson today. I really like it, and you always, share this fabulous information that I think, everyone like it and enjoy this information. And also, I would also thank you for your time and effort, and also Dr. Ahlam, thank you so much for organizing this lesson.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. It was really my pleasure to do this. And I hope to see you all next Tuesday, same time.
Thank you so much, and see you inshallah next week. Have a good night.